Hello, welcome to the Learn American English channel, where you learn naturally so you can speak naturally. In this video, we are going to listen to conversations about how to speak like a native. This video is divided into two parts where the characters will ask for help from a friend and a teacher on how to speak like a native. There will be a listening comprehension quiz at the end of each scene. So, listen carefully and see if you get all of the questions right. Also, be sure to stay with us until the end of the video. We'll point out important words from the conversations, everyday slang, and the most common way to say things in English. Watch for these words and phrases in the subtitles. You'll find their meanings in the vocabulary section in the last part of the video. Are you excited? This should be fun. First, let's listen to a conversation between Amir and Daisy as she helps Amir to speak more like a native. Let's see how their conversation goes, and don't forget to note the highlighted words for their meanings at the end of this video. Let's dive in.
Daisy, I've been trying so hard to improve my English, but I still feel like I'm missing something. I want to speak more like a native, but it's so hard.
I totally understand, Amir. It can be tough, but you're doing great. Speaking like a native takes time and practice. How about we go through some tips together?
That would be awesome. I really want to sound more natural. Where do I start?
Well, the first thing is to focus on pronunciation. Native speakers tend to connect their words together smoothly, and they don't always pronounce every single sound clearly. For example, instead of saying, I am going to, you could say, I'm gonna.
Oh, like how you guys shorten words. I've heard gonna and wanna a lot. But isn't that too informal?
It can be informal, but it's also very natural. Even in everyday conversation, natives use these contractions all the time. It's just how we speak casually. You can still speak formally when needed, but understanding these contractions will help you follow conversations better.
I see. So instead of want to, I can say wanna. What about going to the store? How would you say that?
Good question. I'd probably say, I'm gonna go to the store. Notice how to the kind of blends together as well.
I'm gonna go to the store. That does sound smoother. It's a bit tricky to blend the words, though.
You're doing well. It takes practice to get used to it. Another tip is to listen to native speakers as much as possible. Watch movies, listen to podcasts, or even just chat with friends. Pay attention to how they phrase things, their intonation and rhythm.
I do watch a lot of movies in English, but sometimes I don't catch everything. Should I use subtitles?
Subtitles can be helpful, especially when you're just starting out. Try watching a scene with subtitles first, then watch it again without them. That way you can focus on the pronunciation and flow without getting too lost.
I like that idea. What else can I do to improve?
Another thing is to work on your vocabulary, but in context. Instead of just memorizing words, learn how they're used in sentences. For example, instead of just knowing the word get, learn phrases like get along, get by, or get over.
But get means so many things. How do I know when to use which phrase?
English is full of tricky words like that. It really helps to see them in action. You could try reading books or articles in English and paying attention to how these phrases are used. And don't be afraid to ask for clarification if you're unsure. Natives love to explain things like that.
So I should keep you on speed dial for all my questions?
Absolutely, I'm always here to help. And remember, it's okay to make mistakes. It's part of the learning process.
That's reassuring to hear. Sometimes I feel embarrassed when I mess up.
Don't be. Everyone makes mistakes, even native speakers. Another tip is to mimic native speakers. When you hear a phrase or sentence you like, repeat it out loud. Try to match the tone and speed.
Like copying their accent and rhythm.
Exactly. You can even record yourself and compare it to the original. It might feel awkward at first, but it really helps with pronunciation and fluency.
I'm definitely going to try that. Maybe I'll pick a few lines from my favorite movie and practice.
That's a great idea. And if you ever want to practice in real life, try to have conversations with native speakers. The more you use English in everyday situations, the more comfortable you'll become.
I think I'll start chatting with you more often in English.
I'd love that. You've got this, Amir. With time and effort, you'll be speaking like a native in no time.
Thanks, Daisy. I feel more motivated now. I'll keep practicing and trying out these tips. I'm sure I'll get there.
Keep going and don't be afraid to have fun with it.
Here are some listening comprehension questions to see how well you understood the conversation between Amir and Daisy. What is the first tip Daisy gives Amir to sound more natural in English? The first tip is to focus on pronunciation and how native speakers connect words smoothly. Should Amir feel embarrassed when he makes mistakes in English? No, Amir should not feel embarrassed because making mistakes is part of the learning process. What does Daisy suggest Amir do when watching movies in English to improve his listening skills? Daisy suggests watching with subtitles first, then watching again without subtitles. So, did you get all the questions correct? Let us know in the comment section. Now, let's listen to a conversation between Alana and Mr. Mario as he teaches Alana on how to sound like a native. Let's see how their conversation goes, and don't forget to note the highlighted words for their meanings at the end of this video. Let's begin.
Hi, Alana. How are you today?
Hi, Mr. Mario. I'm good, thank you. I'm a little nervous, though. I really want to sound more like a native English speaker, but it feels so difficult.
That's completely normal. It's great that you're motivated to improve. Speaking like a native can take time, but with practice and some tips, you'll get there. So what do you find most challenging?
I think it's the pronunciation and sometimes the way natives use certain phrases. I understand what they mean, but when I try to use them, it sounds wrong.
I see what you mean. Let's start with pronunciation. One tip is to focus on the rhythm and intonation of your sentences. Native speakers often stress certain words more than others, which makes their speech sound natural. Let's practice with a simple sentence. Say, I went to the store.
I went to the store.
That's good. Now try to emphasize went and store a bit more, like this. I went to the store.
I went to the store.
Excellent. Do you hear the difference?
Yes, it sounds more alive, less robotic, maybe?
Exactly. That's the rhythm of English. Another tip is to listen to native speakers as much as possible. Watching movies, listening to podcasts, or even mimicking conversations can help you get used to the natural flow.
I love watching movies. Should I repeat what they say?
Absolutely. It's called shadowing. When you hear a phrase, pause the movie and try to repeat it exactly as the actor said it, with the same tone and speed. It's a great way to practice both pronunciation and natural phrasing.
That sounds fun. I'll try it tonight.
Great. Now, about using phrases correctly. Native speakers often use idioms and expressions that don't always translate well. It's important to not just learn the meaning, but also understand the context. For example, do you know the phrase break the ice?
Yes, it means to start a conversation, especially in a social situation, right?
Exactly. Now try using it in a sentence.
At the party, I tried to break the ice by talking about the weather.
Perfect. That's a natural way to use it. My advice is to learn these phrases in chunks, not just individually. When you learn them as part of a full sentence, it's easier to remember how and when to use them.
So like, break the ice with at a party or in a meeting.
Yes, you got it. And don't be afraid to make mistakes. The more you use these phrases, the more comfortable you'll become. Over time, it'll feel more natural.
That makes sense. I think I'm just afraid of sounding silly or wrong.
I understand, but remember, even native speakers make mistakes. The key is to keep practicing and not to worry too much about perfection. Communication is about being understood, not being perfect.
You're right. I'll try to relax more when I speak.
That's the spirit. One last tip. Try to think in English as much as possible. When you're doing everyday things, narrate them in your head in English. This helps your brain get used to forming thoughts in English rather than translating from your native language.
That's interesting. So if I'm cooking, I should think like, I'm chopping the vegetables, now I'm boiling the water.
Exactly. It's a small change, but it can make a big difference in how naturally you speak. And don't forget to read in English too. Books, articles, anything that interests you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mario. These tips are really helpful. I feel more confident already.
I'm glad to hear that, Alana. You're doing great, and I'm here to help whenever you need it. Keep practicing, and remember, speaking like a native is a journey. Enjoy the process.
I will. Thanks again, Mr. Mario.
Anytime, Alana. See you in class tomorrow.
Before we review the key vocabulary from these conversations, here are some listening comprehension questions to see how well you understood the conversation between Mr. Mario and Alana. What does Mr. Mario suggest Alana should focus on to improve her pronunciation? He suggests Alana should focus on the rhythm and intonation of her sentences. What technique does Mr. Mario recommend when watching movies to improve English pronunciation? He She recommends using the shadowing technique, where you repeat phrases exactly as the actors say them. Why does Mr. Mario advise Alana to think in English during everyday activities? He advises Alana to think in English to help her brain get used to forming thoughts in English naturally. So, how many questions did you get right? Let us know in the comments section. Now let's review the vocabulary from these conversations. First, we'll review some of the natural-sounding everyday phrases used by native English speakers. Watch the video again after you study the vocabulary words to learn them even better, and subscribe to see our other videos. Catch everything. To understand or hear all the details, often used when talking about listening or watching something. Keep you on speed dial, a humorous way of saying to keep someone readily available for help or advice. Mess up, to make a mistake or do something incorrectly. I see what you mean. A phrase indicating that you understand someone's point or what they are trying to express. Sounding silly or wrong. A phrase expressing fear of making mistakes or appearing foolish while speaking. Now let's review other key vocabulary. Contractions. Shortened forms of words or phrases, for example, I'm instead of I am. Subtitles. Text on a screen that shows the spoken words of a movie or TV show. Mimic. To copy the way someone speaks or acts. Idiom. A group of words with a meaning different from the individual words. Narrate. To describe or explain something by telling about it, often in a detailed way. Were the conversations relatable? Try using these conversations with your family and friends. Thank you for watching the Learn American English channel, where you learn naturally so you can speak naturally. Please click the like button and subscribe to our channel to see more videos like this one.